Yes, you heard it here. Another curse is tearing through the Sea of Thieves and the inhabitants are beginning to panic. Once again, pirates are being put to the test, but do you all have what it takes to stop this curse? Also, stick around for this tale as I want to hear all of your opinions on something and begin a discussion. However, for now, I'm Captain Daddy, and in this story, you will see my most favourite fight to date amongst the Sea of Thieves. Waking up in the tavern after nights of celebrating previous achievements, I was ready to begin my pirating day, but any plans I had were soon interrupted by a low whisper from a familiar face.
Psst. Hey, pirate! I need your help with something. Quietly.
Larina had stopped me, telling me of some troubles afoot, and that Madame Olivia would like to speak to me at my earliest convenience. These people I do not know too well, as I'm still relatively new to the seas. However, I can hardly turn down helping the folk in need. So I headed over to the Order of Souls tent, and inside was both Olivia and somebody I was told to be known as Tasha. This Tasha, however, did not look well, and I was soon made aware that she had become corrupted by a curse and was slowly turning into nothing but pure bones. Frightened, she looked for help, however there was nobody around to offer any until I showed up. I was handed a new compass which I was told to follow, and any extra notes I found whilst taking on this task, I was told to insert into a notebook that I was handed. This notebook was from a Captain Briggsy, who seemed to be well known amongst the people, but which I had never heard of. So I took these, boarded my ship, and began my voyage in the aid of Tasha and Madame Olivia. I dropped the sails and began to read more into this journal, and it appeared to be a task or challenge for Tasha given to by this Briggsy, and I was all the more eager to take this on and learn more, and with following the compass, it wasn't too long before I began approaching the island. Once there, I jumped off, soon to be met by some skeletons that were easily stricken down before meeting up with a skeleton boss specifically placed there to challenge somebody. And now I wondered what all of this was for. Upon killing this skeleton lord, he dropped a key and a new page to stick inside the journal. And after this easy encounter, I was ready for the rest of them. This was a cakewalk, and as I sailed to the next two islands, both were equally easy in finding these captains, taking them on and receiving the keys, and before long, all three were in my grasp. It was now that I had to turn my attention to the riddles and notes inside the journal before then setting out to find the hidden treasure that these keys unlocked. I set out for the first of the three islands, and my first clue was 4 drawings of rocks, trees and parts of the land, explaining how I must dig near the one which will have been there the longest. Despite this island being small, I seemed to struggle finding anything but the tree from the images. Yet all I dug up there was a humble looking gift, and after much longer than I'd like to admit, I finally spotted the rocks bearing the thunderclouds, and my shovel had struck a chest. The first of 3 had been found, and with this treasure, I took it on board and used one of the keys to unlock it, showing inside a strange looking object, which I did not mess with, leaving it inside the chest and heading towards the next island. However, then came a problem. As I was sailing onward, I had noticed that a brigantine was anchored next to my destination, and due to me having all of the keys on deck, I was not ready to lose all of this, and therefore turned my attention to the third island. This would prove to be a very lucky move for me, which ended rather epically and made my pockets feel much heavier. But before then, I sailed around and parked behind my next destination to hide myself from the nearby ship. This island was a lot bigger than the previous one, however the notes gave direct instructions to look for a skewered kraken skull before walking due south. A little. This to me was not accurate enough. We pirates must make sure everything is buried to be found, usually by ourselves and not others. However, being so vague as to say a little meant that I had to dig up the area for a hot minute before I was able to find the exact location. But despite this, lo and behold, I had found the second chest. Once arriving back aboard my ship though, I began to hear cannon fire, and lots of it. I could not lose my loot now, as Tasha would be doomed to a skeletal body for what could be life, and I wanted to help. but these fighting ships could easily put an end to this. I quickly dropped the sail and started heading around the other side of the island to sneak past the fighting ships, but something soon happened that I could never have expected. This battle was between the brigantine and a skeleton galleon, and I began to feel more safe, but as I tried to sail past, the galleon came towards me, and I knew that I had to fight my way out of this one. We began firing back and forth at each other, and whilst doing so, I had forgotten all too well about the previous brigantine, which I had not noticed, but ended up being sunk by the skeletons. I could understand why, as they were taking on quite a barrage of cannons from my sloop, but they kept on going until something began to roll over us. A fog began to fill the seas, and as we attempted to keep on fighting, soon we had lost each other, but they were not stopping, and whilst I couldn't see where I was going at all, I could just hear the sound of cannon fire and seeing the cannonballs launching at me from beyond the mist. I sailed towards them, and in a last ditch effort I fired more, and before long their vessel sank to the bottom of the ocean, and I was awarded much loot that rose to the surface. After this encounter I was ready to head back, but still needed one more chest, so I headed over there, hopped onto the island, and rather quickly, thanks to the simple drawing, found the third and final chest as requested by Madame Olivia. However, I could not get back to her so easily, of course, as the seas had other plans for me. A Reaper ship was nearby the outpost I needed, so I tried sailing around the long way to get there. However, doing so led me straight into a pile of loot that had been left behind from the sunken brigantine earlier, which I got on board thinking I could now just sail straight towards the outpost. Upon hearing a rumbling sound that I believed to be familiar, I was once again met by the arms of the Kraken. However, this time I was solo and had to take this on alone. During this encounter, I was knocking down its tentacles and stopping it from hitting me too much, and other than one little hole, today was not her day as I came out on top, putting an end to this onslaught, in which I repaired my ship and sailed on my way. Finally, I had killed enough time that the Reaper had left the area I was heading to, and for now I had no other issues before arriving at Plunder Outpost, firstly selling all of my loot from this whole journey, until making my way to Tasha and Madame Olivia. They were more than happy to see me, and with the treasures they desired, and with that, I was awarded a compass, and told to listen out as there is surely more to do in the upcoming future. However, for now, my work here was done, with these guys. One thing I will say though, is that hearing these pirates' names and their dealings amongst the seas got me curious to learn more about the history of these waters and hear of many great victories, losses, and the people that were there. If you have any favourite stories or lore from the Sea of Thieves, or even your favourite people, please let me know, as I'd love to learn more and have a greater understanding. However, for now, this tale is not complete, as I still had some humble gifts to sell to the Reapers and a hunger for blood. After leaving Plunder Outpost, I headed off to sell these presents, but I was also excited to raise a Reaper emissary and hunt any nearby ships. And that's exactly what I did once I'd reached there. Once the flag was raised, I headed out into the seas, but it wasn't long before a skeleton sloop rose up next to me. However, with ease, I took it down, receiving more treasure. Sailing around more, a Megalodon appeared, and at first it began to attack me. However, just a couple of shots from my cannon was enough to scare this beast off. After searching for the runner, I soon laid my eyes on a nearby ship, and I knew I had to go for it. And sailing straight towards them, I noticed they too were a solo sloop, and this could have been an even fight. Planks were shattered, and we were both trading hits. However, after a boarding attempt on his ship, I had noticed that it seemed I was the superior land combatant, but with this I now had to sink him. His ship had no holes, so I did what I had to and sailed it into the island, but as it crashed and I was trying to keep him there, I was bested and sent back to my ship, giving him time to get back into the fight. And we sailed past each other, trading more blows. But this fight was not meant to be, as a storm rose over us and it became impossible to not sink while sailing straight and trying to fight, and very quickly, our two ships lost each other and I was stuck sailing through an almighty storm. I finally made it out, and after not being able to spot my opponent, I decided it was time to sail back to the Reapers and sell my loot. Arriving back at the hideout, however, I noticed a familiar ship sailing my way, and just like that, the fight was back on, and I was relentless with my cannon fire, making sure his ship had many holes before boarding his vessel and taking him out, preventing any more repairs. And just like that, this pirate had wished he never came back for me, as I took his level 4 emissary flag and sold it. But despite this loss, that was not the last we saw of him, as I ventured out to collect a Reaper's chest, and upon doing so, gave him time to recuperate and return to take me out. But once again, I was able to stay on top of the fight and sent him back to the bottom of the sea. As I sailed back and sold my Reaper's chest. Before ending the day, I went to a nearby outpost and bought a few things of something I'm planning soon. See if you can guess by looking at my new outfit. But for now, this tale is over, and we can reflect on the helpful dealings I had done in aiding the people amongst the Sea of Thieves, as well as showing my strength out on the waters, standing strong and not losing a fight at all during this tale. However, just because this story is over does not mean you cannot hear more of my adventures, like my previous voyages where you can learn how to make lots of gold fast and almost risk-free on screen now. And whilst you're at it, join my Discord following the link below. Many other pirates are looking to sail the seas with others, or you could just tell us about your own tales. But for now, I've been Captain Daddy, and until next time, arrgh!